An enemy. How interesting, how cute, how fun, how fresh, how funky. Forget outside Chicago, I want my mommy. No sense. It's like ChatGPT wrote this. Like, come to you guys once I have a clear face and not watery eyes or red cheeks. Okay, one second. By the way, yes, I am sporting Taylor Swift merch. It is the week of the Tortured Poets Department album. I will not be here when it happens. I will be on a little vacation to Colorado, so that's exciting. This will probably go up while I'm away. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, this is coming out this week, and so I am supporting, and I am very excited, and I hope that you are too. Okay, hi. So I finished Insurgent. Okay, I finished it yesterday. Please excuse my hair. I just got out of the shower. It's still drying. Okay. So I'm just gonna give like a little synopsis first, and then we'll go into my notes that I made on the Kindle. I feel like I made too many notes, so I'm gonna keep the synopsis very brief. So at the end of Divergent, what we have happening is Tobias's father Marcus and Peter, who was like the biggest baddie in the Divergent class, like when they were like learning how to be, or not Divergent, sorry, Dauntless, when they were learning how to be Dauntless and everything, like he beat Beatrice up. Like he's like not a nice guy. He's like her enemy, okay? An enemy. How interesting, how cute, how fun, how fresh, how funky. They all escape. They turn off the simulation that Janine, who's the big baddie from Erudite, still can't believe it's not Eurodite, but it's fine, we're moving on. They turn off the simulation that Janine had put on the Dauntless, which made them kill Abnegation. Okay, they were like wired to kill Abnegation because she wants to destroy Abnegation. She wants to start a new government and everything. And so they were able to turn it off. They they didn't really destroy the data. They like had the data on a disk, and so now Beatrice has the disk. And that disc ends up getting destroyed. Like it's very like it does nothing. It serves nothing to the plot. So they all escape. And that's like kind of where the first book ends. Okay, so when we open up in the new book, in the second book, oh, I forgot, her brother Caleb is with them too, because her parents were there, because they're Abnegation, of course, and her brother Caleb is Erudite. So I feel like I'm still saying that wrong, so like please don't be annoyed if I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry. So her brother escaped with them as well, so her brother's with them. Okay, so basically where we're at is that all of Erudite and some of the Dauntless, like I'd say like maybe over half of the Dauntless, are like ready for war. Like they are ready to declare war upon Abnegation. Okay, like they're getting ready for it. So it's all of Erudite, who are like the smart people, the people with all the knowledge, and then Dauntless, who are the warriors, the people who fight. Okay, so it's like, you know, they're pretty stacked right there. Okay, so our little group, they go to Amity, which Amity is like the peacekeepers, and they disagree with the war. Of course, they like don't want anything to do with it. They don't agree with Erudite and some of the Dauntless trying to take over Abnegation and destroy the government. Okay, the Dauntless who aren't part of that as well, because it's like half and half, or like maybe like 60-40, I'm not sure. The Dauntless who don't want to fight, they are like seeking refuge. Like they're not part of. They are like still part of Dauntless, but it's like it's clear that it's like a war state right now, so they're just like moving around. So a lot of people go to Amity because Amity is like peacekeepers, you know, like they're willing to take you in. Okay, so they go to Amity. I'm trying to remember exactly what happens, but they leave Amity. So Marcus stays behind, and Tobias and Tris jump on a train, and on the train there's a bunch of people who are like wearing all different kinds of colors from different factions. Okay, and we find out that they are the factionless. So like the factionless, like of course they just like wear what they can, they have what they can, and he goes up to them and he's like, my name is Tobias, whatever his last name is. I don't know what his last name is. He like gives his Eaton, I think Eaton, maybe, I don't know. He gives his full name, and they're like, oh my god, like we know exactly who you are. So they get off the train. They go to like this underground, like, you know, situation, like where the factionless live, and he meets up with his mom. They take him to his mother. So his mother was kicked out of Abnegation. His father is the leader of Abnegation, and Tobias grew up in Abnegation, but he went to Dauntless, right? He's Divergent. We remember this from the first book. And his mother was kicked out, and his mother basically just became like the president of the factionless. Okay, so basically there's traitor Dauntless, and then there's loyal Dauntless. Loyal Dauntless are those who stay true to Dauntless, who like want to take down Erudite and like stop the war from happening on Abnegation, and then the traitor Dauntless are those who were traitors, and they decide that they want to fight and that they don't want to have abnegation control the government anymore. So basically the factionless join forces with the loyal Dauntless, including Triss and Tobias. They're just like doing their thing. Okay, they're like getting ready to take over, and they're getting ready to like storm Erudite. They want to like destroy the computers, they want to destroy Janine, they want to destroy any like option that she has to control the Dauntless going forward. Okay, Marcus is like, it's weird because he's like kind of part of it, but he's kind of not. We'll get into it like near the end of the book. I don't know, a lot of shit happens, and this book is very wordy, and like as I go through my notes I'll like get more into it. But the next big thing that happens is Janine is still showing that she can control the Dauntless, because they all have like this tracker serum in them from the first book. Only those who are divergent, of course, can they're not affected by it. So when Tobias and Triss leave Amity, they are like, they're talking at one point and they're like, oh, Caleb, who is Triss's brother, he's gone. Okay, like we don't know where he went. And Marcus went to Kandor to like join forces with Kandor to fight with them in abnegation against like Janine and the forces that are coming against them, right? Okay. Janine shows that she still has control of the Dauntless because she makes a Dauntless person like commit suicide in front of Triss, and she's like, this will happen every day until someone who's divergent comes forward, because like that's what she wants most of all, is to like keep experimenting on the divergent. Like that was the whole point of the first book. She wanted to find a divergent to do experiments on and all this stuff, and they tried to stay quiet, tried to stay protected, but now she's killing people. She's killing Beatrice's friends. Beatrice, because she still has abnegation in her, which abnegation is selflessness. It's caring about other people, of course. She decides to sacrifice herself. She tells Tobias she's not going to, but she sneaks out in the night. She gives herself up to Janine, and she is like a lab rat, okay? She's like living in this lab, and this is like where the book gets good. This is like 70% into the book. When it finally started getting good was when she is a lab rat, okay? She's like living in this lab. Janine is like doing experiments on her. She's like running simulations on her, but because Beatrice is divergent, she's able to like know that the simulations are not real and that she can like get out of them. She's like looking for the most logical explanation out of them, right? Okay. So Tobias storms in. He's like in love with her, and he's like, you wanted to sacrifice yourself, so I'm coming not to save you, but to also like be with you in this. I have a big problem with Tobias, and we'll get into it once we get through my notes. He's like kind of giving himself up as well. He's like, if you let her go, you can have me instead because I'm divergent too. We find out that Peter is there. Okay, Peter is in the lab. He's working with Janine. He's one of the Dauntless traitors. Okay, he's like it's so funny because Peter gives so much more to me. Like, he gives so much more to the story, so much more like anything than Tobias does. Tobias is so boring and he's so annoying. He gets on my ever-loving nerves. And Peter, I love him, okay? He is my boy. In the end, Peter helps Triss and Tobias escape, okay? They escape out of the compound, out of the laboratory and everything. She gets back to where the factionless and the loyal Dauntless are staying, and she gets talking with Marcus, who, again, Tobias' dad, leader of abnegation, and he's talking about how there's a mission to go in and kill Janine. Like, that's just like, we just need to kill Janine, we need to get her out of this, reign of power, like, kill the dictator, right? And he's like, but listen, Beatrice, like, think about it. If they kill her, then we will not have any access to her information. Okay, the Erudite have been like, they have so much knowledge. They have so much on their computers. Like, there's just so much knowledge. And he keeps like hinting about an outside world. And Beatrice is very intrigued by that because she's like, she's never known anything with these factions. And she has no idea, like, there is an outside world. Like, I thought this was all that there was, So he keeps talking about this, and he's like, we need to go in and storm, not let them kill her before we can get the information from her, before we can get all the information from the computers and all this stuff. So she kind of betrays the factionless. She betrays Tobias. She betrays Tobias's mom by siding with his dad and going on this mission with a couple of other people who also agree with the mission, that we need to figure out what's beyond the wall, beyond the veil, all of this stuff before we kill Janine, because it's clear that Janine has the answers and knows the answers and all this stuff, okay? So we get to the end of the book. Janine gets killed by someone who's part of like the whole factionless slash dauntless team, they're like, this is the mission is to kill Janine. She gets killed, Triss is like a second too late, and all this stuff. Tobias comes up on her, finds out that she's a traitor, and she's working with his dad. They make up really quickly though, because in the end she had mentioned to Tobias, like, no, you don't understand, you killed her, and now we'll have no idea what is outside this world. So like, good job. Oh wait, one more big thing is that Caleb, who is Triss's brother, betrays Beatrice. He is letting Janine torture her while she's being interrogated and having all these simulations run through her and everything. He's the one who gave her information, who told Janine that his sister is divergent, that she has abnegation, dauntless, and erudite in her. Totally forgot about that. Caleb, her brother, totally betrays her, so that's crazy. And he like totally chooses his faction over his family, which is like a big deal in the book. That's like a big theme, is like faction over family or family over faction, you know? And Beatrice has always been family over faction. Like, as much as she loves the Dauntless, like, her parents are like number one in her mind. There's a lot clearer of a motivation in this book, and it's just like, she feels so bad for all of the death that has happened around her, and how can she fix that? So that's part of the reason why she goes on the mission with Marcus, because she wants to know what they died for. You know, she knows that her mom and her dad knew something else that she didn't know, and that they were trying to like reveal the information to some extent, because erudite is like keeping it secret, and they want to get rid of abnegation. There's a lot more motivation in this book, and has to do with like her parents and the other people who have died within her faction and within Dauntless. Again, we get to the end of the book, Tobias listens to Triss, and he's like, okay, I went back and I was able to get the CD, so like, let's watch the CD. And they watch the CD, and it's someone whose last name is Pryor, a woman whose last name is Pryor, which is Beatrice's last name, so we can assume it's like her grandmother, maybe. She talks about how everyone basically inserted themselves with serum to like make them forget about their past life so that they could start this new life with all the factions, okay? We also find out something that one of the computers says to Beatrice when she storms abnegation to go collect the information and like not kill Janine. It calls her a second generation. It's like Beatrice Pryor, second generation. And she's like, what does that mean, second generation? And then we find out that this woman at the end has her last name. And so that's where the book ends, is that we find out that there is some kind of outside world, and her grandmother had something to do with it. Maybe her grandmother was like the leader or something, because she's the one making the video, right? Okay, so let's get into my notes. Okay, I did not like a lot of the writing here. I felt like the author would like forget about certain things. Okay, so there's one part where they go to Candor because Marcus believes that they need to like get the support of Candor. Okay, it doesn't work out for them. In order for Candor to consider them, they make them take truth serum, and they like put them up on the stand in front of everyone, and like they ask them questions, and they're supposed to like spill their darkest, deepest secrets. And that's like the point of Candor, is that Candor has no secret. They're all about honesty, and like the whole faction is there, and they like appreciate the honesty. Like, no matter what you've done and what you admit to, they're like understanding that it's like they're making you do it, and it's to better the society by being honest, right? Okay, so they give her truth serum. She hasn't told anybody that she killed Will in the last book. He was under the simulation, he was coming after her with a gun, and she shot him instead, okay? And it's been like bothering her this whole book. She can't pick up a gun the whole book. So Tobias is very mad at her. This is another thing, is that Tobias gets so mad at her and has like no, I can't think of the word, like he has no sympathy for her at all. He has no like, he has very little care for her. I'm like struggling to find what he likes about her, except for maybe her looks. Like, that's all I can think of. So he's mad at her that she didn't tell him that she killed Will. And it's not like him and Will were friends, okay? This was more her friend than his friend. But she's like been struggling with it, and he doesn't want her to struggle alone, okay? So finally, she's like, I'm sorry, I say, all my anger gone. I should have been honest with you. Like, she's sincerely apologizing. And he goes, that's it? That's all you have to say? Go, fuck you. Like, what do you mean? Like, she's been struggling with this. She shot her friend. She's been struggling with this. Under truth serum, she had to tell something she didn't want to tell anybody because she's still ashamed of it. She's still dealing with it. And then she apologizes to you because you're mad at her. And you're like, that's all you have to say? You're sorry? What did you expect? Did you want her to kiss your shoe? Like, oh my god, it pissed me off. He pisses me off a lot in this book. Another thing that's annoying in this book is that the author doesn't think that her audience is smart enough to figure shit out. So like, I've already figured something out, and then Beatrice will put it together out loud pages later. So like, they're talking about Janine and how it's weird that she doesn't just like kill everyone. Like she has the ability to just like kill a lot of people because she has the technology and erudite to do that, right? Someone mentioned something like, well, if everyone was dead, then she wouldn't have anyone to control, basically. Like if everyone's dead, then like who's going to be in what faction at that point? Like we'll have to start the life over, right? And then like chapters later, Beatrice comes to this conclusion. She's like, Janine doesn't want to kill everyone, I say slowly. She knows that would be illogical. Without each faction, society doesn't function because each faction trains its members for particular jobs. What she wants is control. Yeah, girl, we know. Thank you for spelling it out loud for those who didn't know, I guess. I don't know. I think that the author doesn't depend on her audience having a brain. Oh my gosh. Okay, so another thing that's just goofy is like Beatrice just seems dumb sometimes, okay? I think that it's after Tobias takes the truth serum. Oh, I can't remember what he admits to, but he admits to something that's like a little cowardly. And so the Dauntless who like are seeking refuge, who are with this whole group, they like taunt Tobias a lot. Like they'll walk by him and they'll be like, coward, you know, loser, coward. Like they'll just like taunt him a little bit. He decides that he's had enough one day. So he goes up, he like sits up, he gets up out of his seat abruptly. He goes up to his dad, Marcus, who's like sitting up there talking to like other leaders, and he just punches him in the face. He picks him up, he throws him on the ground, punches him in the face. He takes out his belt, which was the choice weapon that his father would use on him as a kid, and he gets his belt and he starts hitting his dad, okay? And he's just like, you know what this is for and all this stuff. Like he's just like fucking him up, right? Okay. And he walks away, and Beatrice is like, you know, I mean, everyone's shocked. Everyone is like absolutely shocked. Like his son just beat up the leader of abnegation. Okay. You know, it's like kind of a big deal, but like also everyone knows that he abused his son, you know, so not everyone's gonna like jump up and go protect the dad, right? So Beatrice runs outside. She's like, why did you do that? And all this stuff, like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, you never tell me your plans, so why do I need to tell you my plans? Finally, he goes, I needed to prove to the Dauntless that I am not a coward, he says. That's all it was. And she goes, why would you need to, why would Tobias need to prove himself to Dauntless? Only if he wanted them to hold him in high regard. Girl, they've been taunting him. They've been talking shit about him. Like, what? We just had a scene. She just was privy to a scene where they walked by, bumped him, were like, coward, talking shit about him. And then he's talking about, I needed to prove to the Dauntless I'm not a coward. Because he was like a leader in the Dauntless, right? He was a trainer in the Dauntless, okay? So like now he's like gone down a couple steps, and the Dauntless like don't view him as high as they once did, and he wants them to view him higher, as high as they did or whatever, right? And she's like, why would you need to prove that you're not a coward? I don't get it. Girl, we just saw this. So like that's what I'm talking about. It's just like dumb. Oh, okay. Here my note was literally, I need Tobias to die, because this pissed me off. So basically, the leader of Kandor pretty much makes a deal with Eurodite. Like we know that we can't trust Kandor anymore. Like we can't stay in Kandor with like the side of the fight that we're on right now. What's happening is it's a group of Dauntless, and they want Dauntless leaders. And moments before this, Tobias comes up to Triss, and he's like, you are not the person that I fell in love with. Like, you are not the same person you were before, because you have been acting so different. You've been so down and all this stuff. Like, kind of just like ripping her a new one for no reason. I mean, she's clearly traumatized, bro. And so she's like, well, how do you want me to act? And he's like, well, you're divergent. Like, you're divergent. You need to act divergent. You should be abnegation. You should be dauntless. You should be erudite. You shouldn't just be trying to act like a dauntless. You know, you shouldn't just be trying to act like abnegation. You know, you have all of these qualities, and you should be using all of them for your benefit and for our benefit and everything. So someone nominates Triss to be a dauntless leader, but she thinks back on what Tobias said about how she needs to be more divergent. Okay, she needs to act more like the other factions that she's part of. Okay, she's like, you know what, I'm not going to just like simple myself into the dauntless role, because I want to be divergent and I want to please Tobias. So she says no to the nomination. She's like, you guys, I actually don't want to take this responsibility on, and I'm going to say no. Okay. So then they decide to nominate Tobias instead. Tobias is divergent, okay? He just told Triss to stop acting so dauntless and to act divergent. While he's divergent, he gets nominated to be one of the dauntless leaders, and he takes it. He doesn't say a single thing, and Beatrice watches him take her nomination literally away from her. I get that she made the decision not to be the leader, but she did it based off his manipulative words, okay? So then this is the line that I highlighted. It says, "And then, without argument and without ceremony, Tobias is elected to be a leader of Dauntless, and I am not." Pissed me off. Disgusting. This is like, I swear, Tobias is like a small dicked man in the sense that like he cannot handle the fact that a girl or his girl is going to be more powerful or have more to like, you know exactly what I'm trying to say, okay? I literally can't articulate it because it just pisses me off so bad. He aggravates me throughout this whole book because he just keeps doing shit like this. Like, he's selfish. He's so selfish, and I get it. He doesn't have no, he is from Abnegation. Oh my god, he's literally from Abnegation. Marcus is his dad, and Marcus is the leader of Abnegation. So, like, he has selflessness within him. He's divergent in the sense that he got Abnegation and he got Dauntless. This is so aggravating. So that part really, really irritated me because she... Okay, here's Tobias again being a manipulative asshole. So, as you remember, she sacrifices herself to be the divergent that Janine does experiments on. She's like in the facility, in the laboratory, and Janine, because she's evil, she's like, "Oh, I have a special little treat for you." And she like brings Tobias in because Tobias came running after Triss after he realized what she did, right? And he's like been beat up, like he's clearly been like through it, right? Because he's under Janine's like hold control now, okay? So she throws himself towards him, like she's trying to get to him, but Peter, who's working for Janine, remember, holds her back, okay? "What did you do?" I scream. "You die, I die too." Tobias looks over his shoulder at me. "I asked you not to do this. You made your decision. These are the repercussions." Fuck you. Oh my god, what a manipulative ass. Pisses me off. Like, you could have just been like, "You die, I die too. I couldn't live in this world without you. If you want to go through this, I'm going to go through it with you too." Like, I mean, it could have been something better instead of saying, this is your decision and these are the repercussions. You chose to sacrifice yourself, so guess what? Now the person you love the most is going to die too. You chose this girl. Too bad. I'm going to die now because of you. Thanks a lot, girl. Okay, so like, here is an example of Peter being just like my favorite boy in this whole series. So she doesn't have a clock, she doesn't have her watch, she doesn't have any like sense of time while she's like in this isolation, this whole thing with Janine, right? So the first day that she gets there, Peter is there and he like shoves her into her cell and everything, and she's like, "What time is it?" Because she just wants to know, and he doesn't answer. He just walks away, and she's like, "Oh, you know," and all this stuff. She asks again later, I think, like, "What time is it?" And he doesn't even like look at his watch. Like, she doesn't ask every day, but like he knows that she wants to know what time it is. A couple days go by and he comes up to her and he's like, "Your execution is going to be tomorrow," you know, and Janine had told her that she was going to kill her at the end of this, like just to get a rise out of her and everything. And Beatrice is like, "Why is it happening so soon?" And he's like, "Well, we have Tobias now, and Tobias is more than willing to work with us, so like we have no need for you, so you're being executed tomorrow." And he's like saying it kind of somberly. He's kind of like upset a little bit that he has to give this news. Like, you can tell he's not like reveling in it, whereas like they were enemies. So she's like, "You know, you didn't have to do this. I could have forgiven you. We could have worked together. We could have even been friends at some point. Like, you really didn't have to do all this. Like, you didn't have to betray everyone and work for Janine." He says, "I never asked you to," talking about, "I never asked you to forgive me," he says, and turns to leave. But then he stops at the door frame and says, "It's 9:24. Telling me the time is a small act of betrayal, and therefore an ordinary act of bravery. This is maybe the first time I've seen Peter be truly dauntless." Him just saying it's 9:24 made me so giddy. Like, I literally was like, like, I could not. That was like more romantic than anything that Tobias has ever done in these two books. Like, you guys know I'm on a Tobias hate train right now. So, like, maybe I'm just, like, trying to look for things. But, like, that small act of bravery, as she says, it made me feel so happy. Like, it literally filled my heart with warmth for her. Like, I felt so much heart for her, you know, and I also felt for him, but it just, like, that was like more romantic than anything that Tobias has done in this whole book. And not just romantic, but actually kind. Like, Tobias has never been kind to her either, whereas that's like an act of kindness that Peter gave. How did they even get out? I don't remember. Oh my god, duh. I said I don't remember. It was my favorite part of the whole book. So they kill Beatrice, right? Her heart stops on the monitor, but she's still breathing. And Janine is just like, get her out of here, you know, and Peter takes her. And before she goes under, before they stick her with the serum that's going to kill her, he tells her, be brave, which is what they say to the Dauntless before they go under a fear simulation when they're trying to like learn how to be Dauntless in the first book. They tell them to be brave. And so he says that to her, and she's like, why did he say that to me? What does that mean? Basically, Peter, like, the whole program to where she's not going to actually die. So he wheels her out calmly, and then once the door shuts, he starts running with her. He picks her up off of the bed, and he runs with her. He takes Tobias out because Tobias is in his own cell. He's like, come with me, and all this stuff. And they carry Beatrice out. They like go down the trash chute, like the incinerator, and he had turned it off already. Like he totally planned this out to get them out of there. I mean, Peter's my boy. I freaking love, he's my favorite character. Absolutely, Peter's my favorite character. My note for this was, so her and Tobias escape, and they finally have their first sweet moment in all of these books. Her feet are like very cut up because they stepped on glass, they ran away, like they're running and all this stuff. Like they're with the factionless now, and they like wash each other. They wash each other's hands, and they take care of each other's feet, and it's like a very sweet moment. Like I'm so glad that this scene was put in the book because it was definitely needed for their relationship, especially if the relationship is supposed to continue, which, ugh, I hope not. I highlighted this because I thought that it was a really good quote. It says, "My mother told me to be brave, but if she had known that her death would make me so afraid, would she have sacrificed herself so willingly?" I feel like that's, like, I don't know. I want that, like, written on my wall. I love that quote. Okay, so those are my notes. One thing that I forgot is that her mother is also divergent. Like, that was part of the first book. That's all I have to say about it. I hate Tobias. Triss is, like, fine. She definitely, like, gets better, I think, as the books are going on. Peter, love you, Peter. Janine is dead. We found out that there is some kind of outside world to this whole world that we're living in now, and her grandmother probably had something to do with it. Marcus is still alive. And, Evelyn. So Evelyn is Tobias's mother, and she's like leading the world now because Janine is dead, and like the factionless and the Dauntless loyalists, the ones who got away, they're like under her command basically, but she's like planning on taking over the government. Like it's a very like Hunger Games, like, you know, what was her name, Crane or something like that, when she takes over, and then Katniss is like, wait, she's literally just gonna do the same thing that we just tried to get away from. So that's probably where it's going. I can totally see that happening in the third book. I'm really excited to read the third book. I really want to see how it ends. I feel like I know something about it, and I'm excited to see how that like pans out. But I'm gonna go watch the movie now, and I will be back to update you, see if there's anything different or anything else I want to talk about. One more thing that is like so cool in the movie that I didn't think about is that, so Shailene Woodley is the girly, and then Ansel Elgort is her brother, and like they're Fault in Our Starbase. Like we remember that movie, okay? I feel like these books, like the whole YA dystopian genre craze, and The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, those all, like, for Tumblr girlies, like, that all happened in the same time. Like, that's the same time period. So, like, imagine watching this movie, having already watched The Fault in Our Stars, having already gone through The Fault in Our Stars, and, like, they're together again in this new movie. Like, they're brother and sister, so they're not, like, together, but they're, like, still in the movie together. I think that's so cool. Like, I mean, fuck Ansel Elgort, but, like, still, I think that's really cool. Like, cool pop culture moment. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna go watch the movie. Hazel Grace, no. Oh my god. No, I can't believe that oh my gosh, that's her with the short haircut. Stop it. She totally had to Hazel Grace this again. Also, I'm just like more in shock because Shailene Woodley has like the most gorgeous head of thick hair, and why is there no sound? Where is the sound? Yeah, Shailene Woodley has literally the most gorgeous head of hair, and she has to cut it for this movie. And I remember reading that in the book that she cuts her hair, and I was just like, no, please. Because she's so supermodel in the first movie with that. She literally has like a blowout in every scene. Her hair is so perfect in that movie. And now she has this little bob. It's giving Hazel Grace. Okay, like she will never escape the Hazel Grace allegations.
I just wanted to do something different.
I hate him. Even in the movie, he's terrible.
No. It's pretty.
Y'all, that's Peter, by the way. Okay, Miles Teller's
Cultural
Peter.
pathological friendliness with unquestioned pacifism. I love this place. Thank you. Go with happiness.
He's literally my favorite character, even in the
Hey,
movie.
Trish, I really like your hair, by the way. Did you try to cut it all short and weird? Like
Peter, why don't you take your food and sit down, huh?
or what?
Please fight.
I think we should all stick together now that we're all officially fugitives.
Wait, what do you mean officially fugitives?
You don't know. You didn't tell Caleb?
Okay, I swear to God, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna shut up and watch this movie. But you guys, I love this cast. I love this cast so much. Like, it's giving, what was that? It's giving everything 2012, 2014 Tumblr girly love. Like, I'm like, I feel like I'm nourishing my inner child right now watching this movie. It is giving me so much joy. Also, I just freaking love Peter. I love him so much. Like, hi, new angle alert. I'm about to do these dishes, but Naomi Watts? They got Naomi Watts for this movie? She's playing Tobias's mother, Evelyn, okay, the leader of the faction list, so she's gonna be like a big deal, especially in the next book. Naomi Watts? What was the budget for this cast? Because I swear to God, it's so stacked. Like, don't forget Kate Winslet is playing Janine. Hi. Okay, so I finished watching Insurgent. Okay, the movies are so much better than the books in this case. Like, I'm so serious, and I can't believe I'm saying that, like, out loud, actually admitting that the movies are better than the books. But the movies are better than the books, okay? Even though, okay, in this movie particularly, there are some things that were, like, a little switched around that I liked better in the book. So let's talk about it. Let's just get into my notes, okay? Okay, something weird. So in the beginning, they're on the train of the faction list. It's Triss, Tobias, and her brother Caleb, right? They escape Amity because Eurydice comes in to like attack, right? And so they get on the train, they meet with the factionalists, and then that's where Tobias is like, take me to Evelyn, I'm her son, okay? And Evelyn, of course, is the leader of the factionalists. So before Tobias reveals who he is, the factionalists start fighting them, right? And they're fighting back. Caleb starts beating like the hell out of someone. He just beats someone with a pole, right? And then right next to, and he kind of stands back like, wow, what did I just do? Right next to him, his sister is literally getting choked out. Like, she's getting choked out and he's just standing there like a log. And it's like, okay, Caleb, first of all, should not be able to fight. He's from Abnegation, and he's a Eurydice. Like, he is not a fighter. He is a little baby. Like, he does not fight, okay? So the fact that they had him beat up this guy was weird in the first place. And then he's just standing there watching Beatrice, his sister, get killed, basically, okay? So it's like, either that was stupid of them to show that, or it was for a purpose, because they're like, wait till you see what Caleb does next, which is betray Beatrice. You know, he's working with Janine later on in the lab, right? So he's like watching her get choked out. Maybe he like feels like she should get choked out, maybe because like he knows that she's divergent, and he knows that like divergent people are of the devil, like they're evil for the factions, like they're not good, okay? Tidbit, little weird, I guess. I forgot that they killed Eric. Eric was the bad leader of Dauntless in the first book. He was the one who would make them like beat each other up until they passed out. And when they storm Kandor, I think it is, Tobias, you know, him, and he shoots him in the face. So like, I forgot that he died. Okay, he dies. Triss and Tobias have sex in this book. I mean, in this movie, okay, which does not happen in the book. The book is very much YA, and she's also like kind of scared of intimacy. Like that's actually one of her fears, is that when she's in the fear simulator in the first one, Tobias tries to have sex with her, and she is so terrified of it that they do not have sex, and she has to like overcome it, right, in the simulation. So in the movie, they have sex, which I really don't need that visual, because Tobias does not deserve the punani, okay? He does not. He's the worst character ever. He did leave her alone. Another thing that's so funny is I don't think she calls him Tobias once in this movie. She's always calling him Four, which is so weird because her name is Beatrice, and she's like, I'm going by Triss now. So he respects that. Okay, you're going by Triss. He went by Four in Dauntless to like hide the fact that he was Marcus's son from Abnegation, okay? And then when we learn that his name is Tobias, she calls him Tobias all through the book. And I have been training myself to call him Tobias because that's what he goes by now. Yet in the movie, she's literally calling him Four. She's screaming out to him. She's like, Four, don't kill Four, leave Four alone. And I'm like, that's so goofy. Like, his name is Tobias. I wanted his name to stay Four because at least that was like a kind of a clever name, because you know, I hate the name Beatrice, I hate the name Tobias, I hate all the names in this book. It's literally like the author closed her eyes and like went down her baby name book and just like picked a name and was like, okay, her name is Beatrice. and his name is Tobias. Like, that's how she picked the names for this. So, like, I like the name 4 because it's not Tobias. But she calls him 4 the whole movie. Okay, it's like we forgot about the whole point in the book that he's Tobias, and that like means more for their relationship because she is like the only one who knows his name is Tobias, you know, and all this stuff. So she called whatever. Okay, they explain what Janine is after so much better in the movie. Okay, I don't know if it's just like it went over my head in the book, and or they just decided to like change up what the point of the box is in the movie because they knew in the book it made no sense. So Janine explains that Triss's mother had this box, and in the box is a secret that is going to save the world, okay? Only a divergent can open the box. Triss's mother was a divergent, remember? And her daughter, Triss, is divergent as well, okay? So this box was in her mom's house in Abnegation. When she storms the Eurydite headquarters in the first book and sacrifices herself for Triss, it's to keep the box safe. She's trying to stop Janine from going into Abnegation and getting the box, right? Because that's the whole point of this, why she wants to go after Abnegation. It's not because they're the government and she wants a new government. I mean, a little bit like that, because, you know, but it's because she wants the box, right? This was not explained in the book at all. I'm just like sitting here like, okay, yeah, she wants to storm Abnegation. She doesn't trust them anymore. Fair enough. No, it's about the box. Okay, so in the box, it's supposed to be this secret that is going to save the rest of the world, okay? Only a divergent can open it. Janine is convinced that the divergent are what are going to kill society. Turns out divergent are what are going to save society because only a divergent can open the box. Once the box is opened, it is a woman speaking, who in the book we find out is a woman related to Beatrice, but we don't find that out in the movie. It's just a random woman. And in the movie, she admits, she's like, there's a world outside, and we put you guys under a simulation to try to protect you from the world. If you've opened this, then that proves that a divergent has, you know, risen above the ranks and is like better than all of you, basically. Because of this, now you can come back to society. This was not in the book at all. Like, that's what I figured it was in the book, but the message that she says is not that clear. Whereas in the movie, it's cut and dry. You're in a simulation. We put you here. A divergent was supposed to come and get you out. And if they did that, then you can come back and live with the rest of society. Okay, so that's a little weird. Okay, here's another difference. In the book, Peter comes to Triss and he's like, today is the day you're dying, like you're being executed today. He wheels her in, Janine executes her, but Peter, like I said, did the whole system so that he could save her and Tobias, and they escape out of the fire, like the incinerator, right? Okay, and it's turned off, of course, they're fine. And it was just like an act of selflessness from Peter. It's like a great moment for Peter. In the movie, she's doing the simulation. She's doing the divergent simulation that Janine wants her to do. She dies in the simulation, and so Janine is like freaking out. She's like, why? She wasn't supposed to die. Like, she was supposed to be the one. She's 100% divergent and all this stuff. Like, she's supposed to pass the test so she can open the box, so I can know what's in the box, you know? And then Peter's just like, I don't know. I guess she's dead. So then he takes her, and she's like covered up with a sheet, being dead. And then he brings Tobias in. He's like, Janine wanted you to see this. And he shows that she's dead. And then Tobias freaks out. And then Triss wakes up, and so then Tobias is like, whoa, what the heck? And then Peter's like, hey, Tobias, can you do that thing you do? And then he starts beating up the guards around them so that the three can escape. So that was different, and I kind of hated how they did that, because in the book it was better because Janine was like, yeah, it's her turn to die, like, I don't care. Like, Janine is like heartless, you know, she's dead, and then like she doesn't care what happens to her after that. But in the movie, she's like so upset that Triss is dead. She's like, I gotta start all over, this is terrible, and all this stuff. I gotta get another divergent in here and see if they can open the box. And I didn't like that. I liked how it was done in the book better. Also because I feel like Peter's like little redemption arc that's happening is being done better in the book by having him do the situation, which like I guess he did do in the simulation because she's not actually dead, but it wasn't, I don't know, it didn't hit the same in the movie as it did in the book. Another thing, okay, so in the book, remember when she's like, Tobias, why are you here? And he's like, if you die, I die. These are the consequences of your actions. Like, totally like berating her honestly. Like, I hated the way he talked to her about this. He's like, you know, now you have to suffer the consequences because you decided to run over to Janine and all this stuff. But in the movie, there's none of that. When she's awake, she's like touching him, and she's like, oh my god, you're real, you're real. And she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, if you die, I die. And they kiss, you know. And it's like, that's so much nicer, like that's so much more romantic, that's so much like just kinder than what he said in the book. Like, he was an ass to her in the book, just totally blaming her for all the destruction that's going to happen because she decided to sacrifice herself for the betterment of the society, okay? And he's like berating her for that. And then in the movie, it's just like so sweet, and all he says is, if you die, I die. Like, of course I wasn't just gonna sit there and let you die by yourself. Like, I'm gonna be there with you because you're all my life. You're the only thing that's important in my life, you know? That's better. That's better than him being an ass, okay? The ending is different, okay? Because, like I said, she dies, right? And then she comes back to life, but then they stay in the erudite headquarter laboratory thing, and they just, like, Beatrice is like, I need to get the box. The box was meant for me. You know, like, my mom left it, and I know that there's something in there that's for me, and we can't let Janine get it, and all this stuff. So they work with Peter a little bit, and they infiltrate, they get the box, and then the factionless / dauntless crew show up, and then they take Janine and they like take her to jail, basically, okay? And like they show like the world is starting to like celebrate and become new because they know that there's something else out there, because the message that was in the box is being like played for like everyone in the society to watch. So like they know what's going on, right? Okay. And in the book, what happens is they escape the headquarters, and then Beatrice works with Marcus, Tobias's father. She basically betrays Tobias by doing this because Tobias wants to stay with his mother, Evelyn, and her whole sole focus is to kill Janine. That's all she wants to do, is get rid of Janine, because Janine is like the one who exiled her, so she has beef with Janine beyond the whole I want to destroy abnegation and be in control of the whole world. Okay, so like Evelyn has vengeance, right? Okay, and Beatrice works with Marcus. She betrays Tobias again. Like, it's just like they're constantly in conflict in the book, and in the movie there's none of it. They stay in the compound, and then they capture Janine, and then the world is like looking like it's going to start being different, right? At the very end, Evelyn shoots Janine, and that's how the movie ends, as Kate Winslet dies. Okay, right at the end. That's the last thing that we see. Whereas in the book, it's a little more high stakes because Beatrice and Marcus are running against time because the factionless are trying to, their mission is to kill Janine, but Marcus and Beatrice want Janine to stay alive because they think that they need her in order to open the box. In the book, there's no box. It's just like data. They're like, oh, we need to get to the data. There's something in the data. And it's very vague. And that's partly why I feel like I'm so confused when I'm reading this book, because there is a lot of vagueness. And the movie definitely, you know, shapes up the corners. It ties the bow at the end. It like makes things a lot more easier to understand, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's weird, like Marcus is barely in the movie, honestly. Tobias never beats him up, which was like a cool part in the book, honestly. I like that part a lot, okay? And there's no betrayal, so it's just like it's a little weird. It doesn't end any differently. Like, I didn't feel like there was something that happens in the end of the movie that like would not work with how the book ends. Like, if I'm to watch the second movie and then read the third book, like there's no like disconnect there. It's all like the same, but just the way that we went about it was different, and I liked how they did it in the book better in that sense, okay? Something else about the movie is this cast is freaking stacked. I mean, I know I literally can't stop talking about it. I mean, just everyone who shows up, like Suki Waterhouse, she's in this movie for like 0.2 seconds. Like, it's such an iconic cast. It's such an iconic Tumblr girly cast, and I love it, and I'm so here for it. I still can't believe Evelyn is played by Naomi Watts. She's so beautiful, and like the great thing about Naomi Watts is she like looks so youthful. Like, she has the best skin of all time, seriously. Like, she looks so young. And when she's talking to Beatrice in this movie, it literally looks, because Beatrice has like the short pixie cut haircut, she looks like a soccer mom, okay, about to pick her kids up from school. And it's just funny because Naomi Watts is talking to her, and it literally looks like Shailene Woodley is like 20 years older than her, and Naomi Watts is supposed to be Tobias's mother and all this stuff. I was literally like, who is this young ass actress they got to play Tobias's mom? Because this looks so weird. Freaking, it's Naomi Watts. Okay, yeah, I'm excited to read the third book. I'm excited to see how this series ends. I'm gonna go do that right now, and I will catch you back later. Okay, suddenly Tobias has a POV. I don't love this because I freaking hate Tobias. Okay. Okay, I just finished reading Allegiant, which is the third book in the Divergent series. I think that's how you say it, Allegiant. If you know, you know, okay? Obviously, spoilers ahead. Let's talk about what this book is about. Immediately coming off of Insurgent, the last book, remember Beatrice had betrayed Tobias, had betrayed the whole factionless society, I should say, by siding with Marcus because she wanted to storm Janine's headquarters so that she could get the data, because she was like, there's something in the data that has to do with my mom, blah 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 blah. And then that's when we find out that there's like this message from this woman named Edith Pryor, the Pryor is Beatrice's last name, so she's like related to Beatrice in some way. Edith Pryor was talking about how basically there is like another world outside, okay, and that only someone who's divergent was going to be able to open up this data and like learn from this data, and like they're basically supposed to like kind of save the world like once we get to that point, okay? So we open up with the next book, and Beatrice is absolved of her crimes, okay? Her and her little friend group that betrayed Tobias, Evelyn, who's Tobias's mother, is now the leader. She's like the leader of the factionless, and the factionless are who rule the town now, okay? It's called Chicago. Like they eventually just start calling it Chicago because it's set in Chicago, okay? Marcus, who's Tobias's dad, is not really doing anything. Basically, we find out that there is a group of people called the Allegiant, and they are run by the Amity leader, who is Joanna. And Joanna and Marcus, who is the abnegation leader, they are like the leaders of the Allegiant. And the Allegiant, they basically want to bring back the factions. They want to overcome Evelyn and the factionless and bring back the factions. They want things to go back to normal to an extent, because they don't like this, you know, like communistic world that they're living in, where everyone helps out. Like everyone is the same, everyone is equal, everyone has the same jobs, everyone gets the same amount of food. Like they don't want that anymore. They want the separation, okay? Another thing that happens is Caleb, who is Triss's brother, remember he betrayed Triss. He was going to let Janine execute her. He chose faction over blood, okay? That's like a big theme in the book, is do you stay with the ones you love or do you stay with your faction? And he chose faction. He like allowed her execution to go forward. If we're going to be successful, he would have been part of that. Triss asks Tobias to get Caleb out of there, so he frees Caleb from execution. Okay, so there's like a fight that happens between the factionless and those in the Allegiant, like the people who want factions to be back. A fight breaks out, some people die. Her friend Tori dies, who was the one who told her about that she's divergent and like what that means and everything. Basically, they just decide to leave the city, and that's kind of what Allegiant is about. Allegiant is all about like, let's leave the city, there's more out there, we want to find out what it is, and we also still like, we don't want to be part of this factionless society living in this little town here. Like, we know there's more out there. So that's like the biggest point of the Allegiant. So it's like Triss and her brother Caleb and Tobias, Peter, her friend Christina, another girl Kara, and maybe like a couple other people. They leave the compound, like they leave Chicago, okay, and they go to the outside world. The outside world is called Bureau of Genetic Welfare, okay, and their leader is David, and he explains basically that it's like so convoluted, and in the book it's so confusing. Like, I'm clearly reading off a summary right now because this book is just like, what the fuck did I just read? Like, it's so hard to retain everything that I read in this book, and I don't know why. I have no idea why. Like, I don't know if it just like wasn't interesting enough for me to retain it. I don't think that's the case, because I was wanting to read the book. I was very excited, and the whole time I'm reading it, I'm very like focused on the book because I want to finish it. I want to know what's going on. So basically what happened was there was a purity war, and people were given this serum that decided whether or not they were genetically damaged or genetically pure. Turns out those people who are like the most pure divergents are the most genetically pure. So they are like the saviors of society. Because if you're not divergent, you like sit with one faction, right? Like you live with Candor, you chose Candor, your aptitude test in the first book came out Candor, right? But then we have people like Triss, who is divergent, and she's able to have like all these other different kind of emotions. She's able to be smart like a Eurydite, she's able to be selfless like an Abnegation, and she's able to be brave like a Dauntless, right? Okay, there were just too many people who were genetically damaged, okay? And so that's when they decided to come up with this other world where the factions live. Okay, so like imagine like everyone in the last two books we've been reading about, they're like in this like little dome, like they're in like a dome that they can't leave, and they're like living in this dome, and then there's people outside of the dome who like watch them every day, who are waiting for this savior divergent to come along to open up the box, to open up the data that Janine was hiding. And we find out too that her mother was part of the outside world. She was part of the Bureau of Genetic Welfare. She was part of that whole society and everything. She was asked to go in there because Eurydite, Janine, right, was trying to kill all the divergent, and they need the divergent to stay alive. They want more divergent. They want as many divergent as they can have, because those are like the best people of society. And once we have enough divergent, we can cancel this whole test that we've been doing. The divergent can like, you know, be in charge. I don't know, like they can make the world better, okay? Because the world was just like so full of war and selfishness and all this stuff, so they wanted people who had like aptitudes of all the best personalities or something like that, okay? All of the best traits, right? Okay, so we find out that Tobias is not as divergent as Triss is. He's not as purely divergent. He is technically considered genetically damaged. And in this world, this is the real world, okay? Like they're in the real world now. The genetically damaged are like not treated equally as the genetically pure. Like, for instance, like if someone commits a crime and they're genetically damaged, they will have like a lot more leniency with that person, because they're like, oh well, like they're damaged, like come on, like what'd you expect, you know, like we can be more lenient, they can just go on parole, it's fine. Whereas like if a genetically pure person, I mean technically they don't even believe that a genetically pure person would ever like break the rules or like go against the law, because like what they think should be the law, what they think should be, they really listen to them. Like they really hold those genetically pure people to high regards. They are the leaders, they're like the people in charge of the government and all that stuff, okay? So Tobias finds out that he is technically genetically damaged. He becomes friends with a girl named Nita, and she's genetically damaged as well, and she does not like this at all. She's like, this is terrible, like look at these people, we're living in squalor and all this stuff. There's like, it's basically just like the other world, but the genetically damaged are like the factionless. Like they don't have any life, like they don't have, I mean they have homes, but like they live like in tents, and they are offered like, you know, like cans of food. Like it's just like not ideal situation, and there's still like that imbalance between like the damaged and the pure, just like there are between the factions and the factionless. Okay, so it's like the same thing is going on. It's just the struggle of power. Basically Nita talks with Tobias, and she gets him to agree to go in and like storm the genetically pure's like databases. Like she's like, we got to get in there because what's going to happen is basically they have death serum. They also have truth serum. And they were the ones who gave truth serum to the other world, right? They're the ones who gave like all those simulation serums and all that. Like it was created here and outside Chicago, and it was given to the factions and inside Chicago, right? Like they are the ones who like orchestrated everything that happened on the other side of the world. So Nita, like, she tells Tobias, like, we got to get all these serums away because like they're going to keep using it, and like they're going to use it on us eventually, like those of us who are damaged and all this stuff. And he like believes her, but her main objective, which we find out later, is that she wanted to get the death serum so that she could kill all of the genetically pure, so that the genetically damaged would have like an equal foot in society, right? Okay. He tells Triss about this because they decide not to lie to each other anymore. They decide no longer to deceive each other, because in the last book, remember, she lied to him. She went with his father and like betrayed him and all this stuff by like not going with the plan of just killing Janine. She wanted the data from Janine because she knew that it was special. She knew that her mom had something to do with it. So he tells Triss about this, and she's like, no, don't do this. Are you kidding me? They like totally fight about it, and it's very like uncomfortable to read. Like they fight all 3 books. It's very like anytime they're kissing, anytime that they make up and make out, which happens so much, it's so unsatisfying. It's so unresolved. It's like, you guys have so many problems. You guys clearly don't get along. So like when you guys are making up, it's like, I have no feeling about it. I have no feeling about your relationship. You guys have no chemistry. All you do is fight. So, and like, not in a good way. It's just like I feel the fight. I feel the anger from both of them. And then when they make up, there's no feeling. Like, it's just not written well enough in that regard, okay? So Tobias goes against what Beatrice wants. And it's really sucky because he's like, you just don't want me to do it because you're jealous of Nita. She's a pretty girl and you're jealous of a pretty girl. And she's like, are you kidding me? She's like, you don't understand what they're trying to do. Like, you don't get it. I don't trust her. And she was right not to trust her because she was lying to Tobias the whole time. She wanted to get the death serum to kill all the pure people, right? Including Triss. Like, Triss is a pure. So Tobias goes against Triss's wishes, and he goes on with the plan to like bomb the main database place. I don't know. Their friend Uriah ends up getting hit by a blast, by a bomb that they had to plant in order to get in. And the bomb hits their friend. This is like kind of the turning point in the book because Tobias and Triss are like just at such, like, she tries to break up with him, but she doesn't like really have the gall to do it. She just basically says like, don't talk to me. I'll talk to you when I'm ready to talk to you. I'm so mad at you right now and all this stuff, because he went against her again. He doesn't trust her, but he trusts this random girl that he just met. He calls her jealous that she's pretty, that Nita's pretty. Like, that's so dumb. That is so dumb. Like, you could say like, oh, you're jealous because like she's talking to me in private, and you don't trust her because like you're jealous because you love me so. Like, I don't know, that it's all fucked up. Like, don't get me wrong, it's all fucked up. But to say you don't want me to go to this plane because you think she's pretty, she never, like, it's never talked about Nita's looks. Like, there's never like a conversation of that. It's just stupid, okay? So Uriah gets hurt. He's actually like brain dead. Like, he's in the hospital the rest of the book. He's brain dead. And it sucks because like Tobias had promised his brother Zeke, and these are all like Dauntless people, by the way. These are people from like the first book that like we are friends with, we like fought with, we like learned together with. Like, these are all like OG characters, okay? He promised his brother Zeke that he would look out for Uriah, and he ended up not doing that. He ended up literally being the reason for Uriah's brain deadness, okay? So Triss, of course, she's like pure, so she's a council member now, which is kind of like such a sweet little like disposition, I guess, because remember in the last book they wanted they wanted Tobias to be like a new Dauntless leader, and he had told Triss like, I don't want you to be the new Dauntless leader because you're divergent and you're not acting like a divergent, you're trying to act like a Dauntless. And even though he was divergent, he took her place, like he took her spot on the council. Oh, that pissed me off. So in this book, she's a council member now because she's more of a pure divergent than he is. She's a better divergent, okay? So she's a council member, and this is where we find out that the Bureau, the outside Chicago government, gave Uriodite the simulation serum that controlled the Dauntless, that Janine like was controlling the Dauntless with, right? Because they're like supplying everything over there. We find out that Marcus, who is Tobias's dad, was banished by Evelyn, the leader of the faction list, the new leader of the outside Chicago, also Tobias's mom. So he's banished, but he's now working with Joanna, the Amity person, and they're like the leaders of the Legion, right? I mean, Joanna is the leader, but Marcus thinks he's the leader because he's just like that. So they learn that they have a plan, that the Legion have a plan to steal guns, like steal weapons from the faction list, and like storm basically Evelyn and be like, we want the factions back, and that Evelyn knows about this, and that her plan is to release the death serum on them and like anyone who like goes against her. Like that's kind of like her last resort. And then we also learn that basically this experiment in here is not working out the way it needs to work out, because like there's just so much going on, there's so many personalities, there's so many people fighting. It's not working out the way that the government over here and outside Chicago wanted it. So what David, who again is the leader of the Bureau of General Warfare, or whatever it's called, the outside, right? Okay, I'll just call it the outside. So we find out that David intends to release a serum that will wipe everyone's memories over here, that they're just going to start the experiment over. They're like, all right, we fucked up, time to start over, you know? So all these people, all these real people who have real lives and real families, their memories are all going to be erased, and we're just going to start over with everything. So Triss comes up with a plan that she will storm this. I mean, she's like a leader, but she still doesn't have like access to everything that David has access to, right? She decides to storm this so that she can get the memory serum herself and put it on all of the genetically pure people out here, because they're the real problem. They're the people, like they really think that they're so much more pure because they have a better mind and all this stuff, that like they're better than the genetically damaged, they're better than all these people over here, they're better than the factions, they're better than the factionless, like they are the true bad guys. So she believes that to get rid of the biggest evil would be to wipe the memories of the pure whatever, the pure divergence over here, okay? And while she's doing this, the other friend group, so like Tobias, Christina, Peter, Kara, anybody else who like came from outside Chicago to inside Chicago, they're gonna go back and get Uriah's family and get Christina's family, like just in case the memory serum does happen over here, they want to preserve their memory. So they're like, let's get them out of here, bring them in here so that we can like still have our families together. And also Tobias feels so guilty about letting Uriah go brain dead that he's like, let me bring his family over so they can say goodbye as well. And Triss stays behind with her brother Caleb, because in order to get into the facility that they need to get into that has all the serums and everything, has the memory serum and the death serum and all that, David is allowed to go through there. Like he's the only authorized personnel to go through there. And if somebody else tries to, death serum will be like emitted, like it'll be in the air. Like that's just like one of the mechanisms to like keep people out of that room, is that death serum will just, you know, start coming in and like kill you, okay? Caleb decides to sacrifice himself. He's, you know, it's a suicide mission, and he's like, you know, I feel so guilty about everything that I did, and this is like the only way that I can think to absolve myself of guilt, because Beatrice is still very angry with him, and like at one point she punches him and like beats him up and all this stuff because she's so angry about all this stuff that's going on, and she's angry at him and just like all this stuff, and he's like, this is the only way I can absolve myself, like I'll be the suicider in this mission, okay? So Triss and Caleb are like preparing for that, and then Tobias and friends are inside Chicago, and he plans on giving the memory serum to his mom. He decides that is the best course of action, that because she was planning on giving death serum to people, right? And so he's just like, this is the best way, but he sees his mom, she's just like worn down and tired and over this, and he's like, look, this is the plan, like this is what we plan on doing, and I don't want to do this to you. Can we just go back to being mother and son? Like, can we just have this simple fact of love and family back? Like, forget the factions, forget the factionless, forget outside Chicago. I want my mommy. So, and she agrees. She's like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I have been living in exile. I have been living as the leader, and I hate it. And I would love nothing more than just to be your mother again. And that's what we're gonna do. So they agree on that. So he doesn't give the memory serum to her or anything like that. They like make up and everything. And then here's where it starts getting sad, guys. Okay, so Peter, okay, love of my life, Peter. He wants the memory serum because he's like, I do not like the way I am. I know that I'm a cruel person. I know that I fight cruelly. I don't want to live here anymore in this brain. I want to start over. So he takes the memory serum. So Peter is gone. He's no more. He's like, I mean, here's the thing. Like, they know things, like they know how to tie their shoes, but they don't know like who their families are. They don't remember their names. They don't remember how they lived their life before. And they have to like relearn that. Like, they're starting over in that sense, but they're not like children. Like, they're not like babies, right? Evelyn and Tobias go to Joanna and Marcus, they negotiate peace, and where Marcus will never be a leader. That was like one of her things. He will never be a leader. Good riddance. Evelyn agrees to exile herself for 2 years. She's like, I'll just like live outside, like whether that's outside Chicago or like on the fringe, which is outside of Chicago, because obviously United States is still there. She's like, I'll just exile myself for 2 years. Marcus, you can't be a leader. And like Joanna, the leader of Amity, will be the leader over here. Like she will require peace. Like there will be peace with Joanna in charge. And so that's what they agreed to. So now let's go back to inside Chicago. Beatrice and Caleb are trying to storm the data room, right? This is all to get the memory serum to wipe the memories of the pure divergence. So in the last moment, Triss realizes that like Caleb's reason for going on the suicide mission, his reason for being selfless, is selfish, and that it shouldn't be done like that. Like if you're going to give up your life for someone, it has to be for the greater good, which is what her mom and what her dad did. And this is like where the book just comes together, literally right in the final like 5 chapters of this book. Her parents, let themselves die. They embarked on a suicide mission of their own so that she could live, because they knew that she needed, her mom knew this. Whether her dad knew this we have no idea, because it's all about her mom. Her mom knew that Beatrice needs to be the one to unlock the box in Janine's data room that would then let them know about the outside world. So she lets herself be killed so that Beatrice can live. And Beatrice realizes, Caleb's doing this for the wrong reasons. And I also am very divergent. I'm able to withstand simulations, and she does that multiple times throughout all the books. We see it happening all the time. She withstands truth serum, she withstands the dauntless simulations, the fear simulations, all this stuff, okay? She decides to go into the room where the death serum is. Caleb is like, no. And she's like, yes, it has to be this way. Like, please cooperate. And people are like running after them and all this stuff. She gets into the room. The death serum starts getting on her. She starts feeling herself get weak and all this stuff. But she's like, I'm strong. She's able to get to the memory serum. But then last minute, freaking David walks in and he starts shooting her up. So she was able to like release the memory serum, so all the pure divergent people like no longer have memory of that, and they like manipulate them to where they think that they were about to embark on letting the genetically damaged people like live the same life that the genetically pure people live. Like they were on the way to that, and then their memories got wiped. Oh no. So that's like how they take care of that situation, and that's how they make the world better after the pure people's minds have been wiped. And Triss, it's explained that she succumbs the death serum, but she does not survive the bullet wounds that David gives to her. So she dies. And she sees, I'm gonna get emotional, oh my god. As she's dying, ew, my voice, okay. As she's dying, she sees her mother, and her mother embraces her, and her mother takes her in and everything. And that's like when you really realize, like, ew, stop it, Emma, chill out, oh my god. Sorry, I'm like super emotional, like I don't know why I'm acting like this is not an everyday occurrence for me. But, this is like where we realize like what the motivation and like what the point of the whole series has been, because I remember reading the first book and being very confused, like this girl seems to have no motivation, like she doesn't want to leave her family in abnegation, but like she wants to be different and be dauntless, but like she doesn't like care, like it was very weird. She was just like constantly struggling with, am I brave or am I selfless? Like that was like the biggest point of the first book. And then in the second book, it's just like they're just surviving, there's no like, the only motivation was to survive, but not in a sense of like the Hunger Games. Like the Hunger Games, you can tell that this motivation to survive is so strong, and it's written so clearly and like well, but you really realize here in this moment when her mom is coming to her, her motivation was her parents, and specifically her mom, because she talks about her mom a lot. While she's in this outside Chicago, she's able to read her mom's diaries and find out like, she was part of the society, and then she was kind of like planted in this society to save the divergent because Uriodite was trying to kill all the divergent and all this stuff. She ends up falling in love with her dad, and she just kind of like fucks up their plan because she's like, sorry guys, I'm gonna go to abnegation and I'm gonna live my life. I found love and I want this family and I want this man, and that's what I'm gonna do. And then she selflessly gives herself up for Beatrice because she knows that at the end of the day, Beatrice needs to be alive to help out the rest of society and all this stuff. You know, it's a very touching moment. It's done very well, in my opinion. And I love it. I love it when the main character dies. Like, I love feeling emotion. You know, I love being sad about things. I love knowing that I can be sad about things and that I'm not just, like, completely numb. So, like, this was a great ending, in my opinion. Oh my god. The half of the story is told from Tobias's POV, so like it's Beatrice, Tobias, and then when she dies, it's all Tobias. And when he finds out she's dead, it's just like very heartbreaking. We finally I finally felt their relationship, you know, after she's dead. It just sucks that we had to come to this point. Like, I can't imagine how I would have been if, like, I really loved their relationship and I really loved him as a character, the whole books, you know. This would have been like so much more heartbreaking for me. It has nothing to do with him. It has nothing to do with their relationship. It's all about her. It's all about her mother, you know. I think it's also just a really great metaphor on like sacrifice. It's done really well. Okay, I'm gonna stop crying now. I'm gonna come to you guys once I have a clear face and not watery eyes or red cheeks. Okay, 1 second. Okay, a couple more things happen. Tobias tries to take the memory serum. It's like, you know, months later he goes to take it, but then Christina stops him and she's like, this isn't what Beatrice would want. She would want you to keep living. Like, you know, she doesn't want this and all this stuff. So he decides not to take the memory serum, which is so goofy. Like, if you love someone so much and you're like, I can't live without them, why wouldn't you, like, I mean, it sounds like crazy to say this, but like, why wouldn't you take the death serum? Because then at least that way you have a chance of being with them in death. Like, whatever might happen after death, like, maybe there's that, but you would rather just like delete all of your memories of her instead of like kill yourself to be with her. Like that was weird. I was like, oh, we get an epilogue that's like 2.5 years later. Everyone's living peacefully. Evelyn is out of her exile. Marcus is nowhere to be found. And everyone is just like living peacefully. The end. Okay. Let me talk about some notes because of course I have things to complain about. Did you catch it earlier when I said that she was able to manipulate the truth serum? When she is in Candor in the second book, she is not able to manipulate the truth serum. But then it talks about in this book, when I was able to manipulate the truth serum. When were you able to do that? So that's random. They randomly threw that in there. You know, Tobias and Beatrice are fighting like all the time, okay? And they're fighting because they are keeping too many secrets from each other. They're both like constantly working for different factors and different like motivations and whatever. He like trusts his mom and she doesn't trust his mom. So they're just like constantly bickering and everything. They finally get into the fight where they decide not to lie to each other anymore. And this is like what motivates Tobias to tell her about the whole plan that Nita is planning later on. And it's like, bro, you would have kept that from her. Like, it's gross. It's weird. I don't like him. We get to the end of the fight and she's like, I'm sorry I lied to you. I say, I really am. Talking about when she betrayed him to go with Marcus at the end of the last book. And he says, well, I didn't mean to make you feel like I didn't respect you. He can't apologize to save his life because she's talking about like, you don't think I'm strong enough to handle things. That's why you hide things from me and you need to stop that because that makes me hide things from you too. And then he's like, sorry if I made you feel like I didn't respect you. Just apologize. Just say, I'm sorry for not respecting you and I'm sorry for making you feel bad. Like that. He's the worst. Okay, so this was the biggest mystery for me. This was my biggest question because at the end of the second book, we get the message from Edith Pryor, okay? Beatrice's last name, her father's last name. So her father, someone in her father's family knew about everything going on the outside, even though it was her mother who came from the outside in, who knew about the message from her soon-to-be husband's relative ancestor, talking about how divergent people would be the ones, or the best divergent, the most divergent would be the one to like save the world, right? To save everyone from everything going on. So Beatrice is reading like this last statement from someone who agreed to go into the other world, right? Who agreed to have their memories wiped, because that's what had to end up happening, was people agreeing to have their memories wiped to go into this other world to try to live this other world, and then like generations happen, right? So like those people who originally went in there are not there anymore. There's been several generations since then. She's reading like this like written statement where it's like, you know, I consent to the genetic healing procedure. I consent to the reset procedure. You know, I know the risks and the benefits. I consent to all of this, right? And it's signed. Okay. This is so weird. This is so weird because I'm like, where did you come up with this? Like, so she's reading this random woman's consent form, and it's signed Amanda Marie Ritter. Amanda Marie Ritter. Okay. This is the next sentence. Amanda Marie Ritter. She was the woman in the video. Edith Pryor, my ancestor. So you're reading something signed by a woman named Amanda Marie Ritter, and you're like, oh my god, that's my ancestor. That's my ancestor, Edith Pryor. Where are you coming up with that? Where did that come from? And a lot of these notes that I made in here are just totally like out of left field, just random shit that the author wrote, and I'm like it literally makes no sense. Like, not in a sense of like, oh, this is a little stupid and I'm not going to put a lot of brain power to try to understand it. It's like literally no sense. It's like ChatGPT wrote this. Like, I swear to God, it's so weird. How do you see someone signed Amanda Marie Ritter and you think that's my ancestor Edith Pryor? No other explanation, by the way. No further explanation on that. It's just like, she's talking to Caleb because there's this whole like ancestral tree in like the outside Chicago. She's talking to her brother Caleb, and she's like, she was dad's ancestor, and then he goes, 7 generations back, yes, an aunt. Her brother is the one who carried on the prior name. So her brother is the one who carried on the prior name, but your ancestor Amanda is your ancestor Edith Pryor? My note was literally just, what? Okay, so one thing, I just want to mention this real fast because I mentioned it earlier and I thought that it would be something important. It kind of is, but like it's not that serious. When she goes into Janine's laboratory, whatever, in the second book, it says the computer, like the system in the room knows who comes in and out of the rooms, so it announces that it's like Beatrice Pryor, 2nd generation. And I was like, oh, 2nd generation, that's a little interesting. Like, I wonder if that means that like her parents were the 1st generation in this little world. But what it means is, like, we get this explained to us later while we're looking at the whole ancestral tree of everything. It says that the generations are matrilineal. It says that's why Janine's record said that Tris was 2nd generation, because her mother came from outside the city. I'm not sure how Janine knew that, but I guess we'll never find out. And when we're realizing this information, it's being told to Tobias. Like, Nita is telling this to Tobias. So when she's like, that's why Janine's record said that Tris was 2nd generation, because her mother came from outside the city. Tobias doesn't know this. Tobias was not there when Beatrice walked through the door herself to get Janine's data. He was not there. It's not written well. It's not like, placed together well. It's very weird because like that information is important to an extent, just because we found out that it said 2nd generation, so readers are like, what does that mean, 2nd generation? But then for some random person who is not genetically pure, she has no access to any records or like any old cameras or anything like that. So like, how would she know what Janine's record said about Beatrice? She would not know this information, and she's the one telling it to Tobias, who doesn't know that the record said that she was 2nd generation. It was very weirdly like put in. It probably was like something that the author found out later. She was like, oh shit, like I forgot that I need to wrap that up real quick. So she wraps it up, but then has it told to Tobias. Okay, something else, like this is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm just gonna talk about the weird things that the author decided to like put in this book that literally make no sense. Like, I just read all these books and this is not like lining up to the way that you've made me believe that all these people are before, right? Okay, so this is about Tobias, and he's talking about how people are giving him mean looks because he was part of like the whole thing with Nita, and like the bombs went off and people got hurt and all this stuff. It says, I noticed, because I can't help it, that some of the people we pass on the way to the meeting give me nasty looks or a wide berth. I have been hated and avoided before as the son of Evelyn Johnson, factionless tyrant, But it bothers me more now that I know that I've done, okay, yeah. It bothers him now more because he's actually done something to like deserve the nasty looks. So he grew up in abnegation, right? His dad is Marcus and his mom is Evelyn. Janine decides to exile Evelyn, and she is now factionless. She's like factionless, right? She no longer is part of a faction. She's no longer part of the family. And he's saying that people would give him mean and nasty looks because his mom got exiled, but he lived in abnegation. Abnegation is not about that at all. They do not, like, they are very selfless people. They do not think about their own feelings about things. They would be like, oh, I can't give Tobias a bad look. In fact, I need to be nice to Tobias because he's going through a hard time right now. His mom just got exiled. That's really sad and all this stuff. That's the kind of people that abnegation are. So to say that, oh, I'm so used to being avoided and hated because my mom was exiled. No, you were in abnegation. If you were in Dauntless, sure, I can see that. If you were in Candor, absolutely, because Candor are very honest people. But abnegation stuffs their feelings down to make other people feel better. Like, stupid. There are so many characters in this series. I swear we get introduced to like 10 new characters every book, and in this one there's so many more because there's just like the whole other outside world. There's so many, like, and she names every one of them, which I'm trying not to hate on because I like for every character to like mean something. But like, they're literally driving downtown and they name the two drivers who were driving them, like Violet and Jack or whatever it is, and it's like, we literally never see them. They don't speak. They have no lines. They're just there to drive them around the compound. And we have to know their names now. Like, I was like, oh my god, another person to remember in case they come up again, because that would happen. Or like, we'd be introduced to so many people here, and then like Beatrice or Tobias would be talking to them, and I'm like, oh my god, who is this person? Like, are they like pure? Are they damaged? Are they like a brother of someone? Like, are they important? Like, are they just some random? Did they come from over here and I just forgot about them? Like, I was constantly doing gymnastics to try to remember all of the characters in the series. There's also just like times when Beatrice like comes to conclusions that make no sense. And this has to do with the writing. Like I said, I'm just here to complain about little things. She's talking about Chicago. Like, they just start calling this part over here, where the factions and the factionalists are, they just start calling it Chicago. So she's talking about Chicago. Someone's talking about how like Chicago perpetuates the belief that genetically damaged people need to be fixed, just like outside Chicago, that they're damaged, period, and all this stuff. And that because, like, you know, they hate divergence. Like, they want to get rid of divergence. They think that divergent people shouldn't be like allowed to live in this society, right? Because they're so different. So someone's like, I'm not sorry for saying that like they should change the way that they live too, right? Like, and Beatrice should be able to agree with that because she went through the suffering of being a divergent in that society. But she's like, I hadn't thought about it that way. To me, Chicago had to keep existing because the people I lost lived there, talking about her parents. Because of the way of life I once loved continues there, though in a broken form. And then it says, but I didn't realize that Chicago's very existence could be harmful to people outside who just wanted to be thought of as whole. Janine literally tried to keep that information away from everyone so that they could stay in their little compound and not have anything to do with the outside world. Like, that alone proves that Chicago is harmful because they're trying to push down information. Like, it's just, she just comes to weird conclusions at weird times. So Tris and Tobias are making up, right? Because the whole bombing happened. He didn't listen to her again. He just called her a jealous little girl, and they're making up. And she's thinking about how, like, love conquers all and all this stuff. And she says this in her mind. She goes, I thought about my parents, who argued more often than any other abnegation parent I knew, but nonetheless went through each day together until they died. They argued more than any other couple you've ever known. What are you talking about? We've never heard that. The only time she ever talked about her parents was talking about how loving their relationship was and how selfless they were with each other and with other people, and how her mother is like the greatest example of anyone she could ever have, and how much she loves and misses her parents. Like, her parents are very positive thoughts, very positive words all the time throughout all 3 books. But then suddenly, when her and Tobias are fighting and she needs something to like relate to in a fight, she's like, my parents fought more than any other parents I knew growing up. Where did that come from? Why are you telling us this right at the end? Like, now we think that they fought a lot, and it's never talked about like that. It's so weird. Just random shit is being written. And then, like, it's just like flowery, just like unnecessary bullcrap. The group with Tobias and Kara and Christina and Peter, they're like on the way over here to like go get the allegiance and like but they have like ulterior plans, of course, because Tobias is gonna like talk to his mom and all that stuff. They're on the way, and Christina agrees that she's going to like pretend to have to go to the bathroom, and then when she comes back, she's gonna slash their tires so that Tobias can then be like, oh my gosh, I thought I saw a car back there. I'm gonna go look for this car and then bring it back to you guys so that we can continue our journey and everything. But he's just gonna book it so that like they're not affiliated with the people over here who are driving them over there, right? Okay, that's the plan, is that she's gonna pretend to go to the bathroom and then slash the tires. And we talked about this last chapter, okay? And then it's starting, she's like, oh, I can you really stop? I have to pee really bad. Yeah, it came on all of a sudden. You guys stay here, don't look, and all this stuff. And then he's just like thinking, and he's like, sometimes all it takes to save people from a terrible fate is one person willing to do something about it, even if that something is a fake bathroom break. Like, why are you even talking? Like, don't even say that. We know this, and we know what's happening. It would be different if like we didn't know that this plane was going on, and then like they're on their way, and then Christina's like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, and then as the reader you're like, okay, this is weird, what's going on? And then like we read this where it's like, you know, something brave that someone has to do, even if it's something as simple as a bathroom break, then as the reader you're like, oh my god, what's really happening, what's going on? We know what's going on. We literally just talked about it. Christina is talking about it again, and now Tobias is talking about it again. Stop. I have one more note after this that goes back a little bit, just because I want to end on a nice note. So this is my last little snarky note, okay? So we're in the epilogue, and we're talking about like, oh, where's Marcus? Oh, we haven't seen him. Oh, where's Evelyn? Oh, she just came back. She's been exiled for 2 years and all this stuff. Oh, where's Peter? Okay, and I'm so excited. I'm like, yes, where's Peter? He's been my favorite character this whole time. So any updates from Peter? And then the guy that Tobias is talking to, he goes, he's in Milwaukee. I don't know what he's doing though. And then Kara goes, he's working in an office somewhere. And that's it. That's all we get about Peter. We don't know what he's doing, only that he's working in an office somewhere. Okay, so this paragraph right here is like the paragraph to sum up the whole book, okay? Like the whole series. I wanted to end on this because I thought it was very powerful. It spoke to me very well. This is when Beatrice decides that Caleb is not going to be the one to sacrifice himself, that she is going to be the one to sacrifice herself and go through the death serum so that she can turn off the brains of the pure divergence and everything, okay? So she's like realizing that, you know, she's going to take his place. She goes, he is part of me, always will be, and I am part of him too, talking about Caleb. I don't belong to Abnegation, or Dauntless, or even the Divergent. I don't belong to the Bureau, or the Experiment, or the Fringe, which is like the outside world, okay, the rest of the United States. I belong to the people I love, and they belong to me. They, and the love and loyalty I give them, form my identity far more than any word or group ever could. Final thoughts. Her sacrifice is the best thing that could have happened to this book. It will definitely bump up my rating. I don't know what I'm going to rate it yet, but it will definitely bump up my rating, because if it had been anything else, if her brother had sacrificed himself and her and Tobias lived together happily ever after, I wouldn't have cared. I would not have cared. But this is an ending that sticks with you. This is an ending that you'll think about. This is an ending that like you'll think about in your own life. Like think about like the times that you can be brave and the times that you can be selfless, you know, and the times that you can show your love and loyalty to the people that you love and are loyal to. It's a really good note to end on, and I think that she did that very well, and it was a really well-educated decision on her part for this series. It just fits the story. It fits her story so well. And I'm gonna go watch the final movie now and cry my eyes out all over again, and I'll be back to update you once I'm done with that. You're joking me. You're joking me. This is the face of someone who just watched Allegiant. I just watched it. If you've seen this movie, you know. If you read these books, I can't imagine what I would have done if I had actually read these books at 12, 13 years old, been excited as hell, gone to see all the movies, okay? I was a big Shailene Woodley fan back in the day, still am, don't get me wrong. I would have ate those with a fork and a knife, okay? I can't imagine how pissed off my little neuron firing, hormone raging brain would have been if I had seen this in theaters. Especially after reading the book. Literally every criticism I had for the book, just throw it out the window. Like, forget about it, because it's so much better than what I just freaking watched. I I can't believe they did that. Okay, let me not stall here anymore. Like, for those of you who don't know, okay, the movie is completely different. It is nothing like the book. Like, I'm not even joking a little bit. Like, the only thing that does happen is that they leave Chicago and go to the bureau, and they meet up with David, who's like the leader, and they find out that he created all of them for this faction experiment, right? To like try to make people, I don't know, like to control people, okay? That's literally the only reason he did it. Everything else, the ending of the book where she sacrifices herself, she puts herself in front of her brother who chose faction over blood. She chose blood over faction. She chose love and loyalty over anything else. She chose selflessness. No, does not happen. Halfway through, I was like, what am I watching? I had to check twice. I literally, even though the characters are the same and they all look the same, and I knew I was watching it, I had to check it twice. I clicked up on the remote to make sure that I was watching Allegiant, because what the hell? You guys, it's just completely freaking different. It's completely freaking different. So they leave Chicago. And by the way, they call it Chicago the whole time. They haven't called it Chicago in the last two movies, but it's suddenly called Chicago. Okay, so they leave Chicago. The rest of the world is like really toxic. I thought that the special effects were actually pretty cool. Like the green screens and just like all of the sci-fi-ness of it was pretty cool. Like there's a part where they're being entered into the bureau and they have to like take a shower, and this like weird goo comes over them and they're like swallowed in this like honey goo, and then it like washes off of them. It was pretty cool. Like I'd never seen something like that, okay? But then it gets so bad, because like literally the whole thing where Tobias betrays Beatrice, like he does it back to her by teaming up with Nita, and then they decide to like bomb part of the bureau so that they can get the data that's upstairs and everything, and they like basically kill Uriah and all this like guilt stuff that happens. That's not in there, okay? So basically what happens is they get there, and David, the leader of the bureau, is immediately like, Beatrice, come on, you know, like you're with me, you're like the best divergent ever, everyone else can stay downstairs because they're damaged and everything, you have work to do, you know? So Caleb, her brother, and Tobias, her boyfriend, are like told to do these other missions, right? Oh, and Peter's there too. Don't even get me started on Peter in this movie, okay? So Peter and Caleb are like in these like little chairs that you can see like everything going on in Chicago, and they're like do. It's just like very technology, I don't know. They're like able to like spy on everything, and they have like access to so much stuff that can be like dropped down and happen, I don't know. So they're like in the technology part of it. But Tobias, he gets put on like security detail, and Nita is like, come on, it's time to go to work, and she gives them a gun, and they just fight people outside of the fringe. Like they fight the outside people, and then they zap their memories and then bring them to the bureau to give them a better life, okay? That is nowhere in the book. Nothing like that is even remotely, like they don't talk to anyone from in the fringe, okay? David takes Beatrice to go to this council, which are like his bosses, also not in the book, where he's begging for more money so that he can like redo the situation, redo the whole experiment. And she's supposed to tell them like how good the experiment is, and like how she was able to like be divergent and be the most pure divergent. Like she's like the best example of like the experiment working. So he's like, give me more money, look at how great she is and everything. And before she goes, Tobias is like, don't trust him. And she's like, why? Because like now I'm special and you're not, and all this stuff, because you're damaged and I'm pure. And she goes and she's like, she talks to the council and she's like, no, we should stop this experiment because you're just fucking with people's lives, like you're messing with their brains, and like they are real people down there, like we need to stop this and all this stuff, don't give him more money. David gets really pissed, and then they all escape, okay? How does it even happen? Tobias gets captured, and he gets brought back to Chicago, and then Beatrice and Christina like storm Chicago, and they have guns, and they have like these cool like technology discs that create shields so that they don't get shot at and all this stuff. Here's the freaking kicker, okay? In the end, Miles Teller, Peter, my favorite character in this book, okay, he's the bad guy. He is the bad guy in this book, okay? I mean, in this movie, don't get it twisted. In the book, he's my little angel, okay? In the movie, he's the enemy. He teams up with Evelyn, and he's like, oh, Evelyn, don't you want to take out Joanna? Don't you want to get revenge on your husband, Marcus? blah, 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 blah. And he tricks her into getting rid of Marcus's memories. The only time we see Marcus in the movie, he's like in jail, and he's like, "Ah, so you finally come to see me, huh?" And she zaps his memories, not knowing what this thing does that she's about to put on his face that will zap his memories, because Peter's just like, "Oh, you should try this on someone you don't love. Like, try it on some rando, like try it on someone you don't like." Having no idea what it does, she puts it on Marcus, zaps his memories. Marcus is gone. Okay, out skis, he's done. And so Peter's like, "Oh yeah, this is a great tool and everything." They go back to the lab, and there's this vapor that's going to be administered. Okay, we don't know what kind of vapor it is, and it's so annoying because in the book there's so many serums, there's so many vapors, so we don't know what this vapor is doing. We don't know if it's killing people, we don't know if it's erasing their memories, we don't know if it's making them go through fear simulations, like anything like that. Okay, it's just this pretty orange vapor that comes around, and people are just like falling down, but like I don't know if they're dying. Like there's no screaming, there's no nothing, like, and if that's the case, what's the point? Like, why would Peter come to infiltrate to kill them? But then like we find out that he was working for David, that he was like doing what David wanted, but David wanted to erase their memories. So why are they all falling down? Like maybe their memories were being erased, but that was not clear at all. And in the end, I don't even know, you guys. In the end, Beatrice finds the hub. We don't see it. She opens a door and it's just this bright light, and she's like, "Pow, pow, pow," and like all this stuff crystallizes and goes away. And then she's able to like address the whole city of Chicago, where she's like, "There is a world outside and they want to try to keep us in, but David, I know you're listening, and that will never happen." And then David's like watching her the whole time, like angry man. Something else weird that happens is when Peter and Evelyn are locked in the room and they release the vapor, like Peter makes Evelyn release the vapor starts to come up into their room, and Peter starts freaking out because he didn't think that he would be affected by it. And Beatrice and Tobias are outside the door, but it's locked from the inside, and they're like, let us in, let us in. So he's terrified, and he lets them in so that he can escape, right? Because the vapor's coming up, and he escapes. He runs away, and they run to the computer to try to turn it off and everything, right? He runs away, and he goes like right, like, you know, he turns right. There's vapor there. There's so much vapor over there. We just saw people fall down in that same hallway. He just ran towards the vapor, but then at the end of the book, he's on the little like Araki's ass planet. I don't know, you guys. I literally can't explain this movie to you. It was so confusing. I was trying to like, where are we? Like, when did this happen in the book? I finally just realized this is not the book. Like, just get over it, Emma. Like, you're watching a completely different story. Just try to pay attention and realize what's going on. Okay, I'm just gonna go through a few of the notes that I had for this, because I literally can't tell this story anymore. Like literally, it's 2 hours long and nothing happens. The beginning of the movie is like pretty normal. They're going through like the trials, they save Caleb, they leave the compound, they go to the bureau, they learn about the bureau. Beatrice learns about the pure and the not pure, I don't even, the damaged, that's what they're called, the pure and the damaged. Okay, like she learns that Tobias is not as divergent as she is, but then it goes just the most downhill south ass way. I can't. Okay. First of all, Tori's hair, that's literally a hate crime. I mean, I can't believe they made her put that on. Oh my gosh, I can't go a second longer without talking about the cast, because you know this cast surprised me, kept surprising me. Someone I forgot to mention from the last movie, Octavia Spencer. She plays Joanna, the leader of Amity, who ends up becoming the leader of Chicago, right? Okay, in the books at least. Who fucking knows what happens in the movies? Octavia Spencer's in this. Guess who else is in this? Bill Skarsgård is in this movie. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Skarsgård and his wicked little eyes are in this movie. There's like continuity issues all throughout, like when Evelyn and Peter click on the vapor to like disperse amongst everyone per David's wishes, that Peter is handling out now. Suddenly we see that the serum is at like 87% complete, and then like minutes go by and Tobias gets in the room and he's like, oh my gosh, what's going on, and all this stuff, and he's like trying to figure out how to turn it off, and the serum's at 80%. So minutes later it's at 80%, right? So it was at 87%, minutes later it's at 80%, and then seconds later, like, him and Evelyn have like a one-word conversation. Seconds later we see it again, it's back at 87%. So like, you know, just little laziness, weirdness, things like that were happening all throughout. Another thing that I just like, in the book this happened, and in the movies this happens too, there's so much inconsistencies with what the Divergent are able to overcome and what the Divergent are able to do. Like, there's so many times where she's injected with a serum that she is able to like understand how to get out of it because she's Divergent. She's smart enough to manipulate the situation and leave the situation. And then in the movie, she's like clearly not remembering that she can do that. Like in the second movie, she's put in a simulation where she has to save her dead mother from a burning building, and it's like, but she knows that's fake. She knows her mom is dead already. She knows that Janine is putting her under simulations, and she's still like fighting to save her mom. Like, it was just like a whole part of the second movie that was so weird about that. And then just like, what was the orange vapor in the third movie? Like, what was that? Was that like pass out gas? Was that erasing memory gas? Was it dead gas? Like, what is it? We don't know. We have no idea. This movie sucked. This movie freaking sucked. I can't believe they didn't go with the ending of the book. That one of the great ending. I loved the self-sacrifice. I loved, you know, everything was like wrapped up in a nice little bow. Sure, like everyone lived peacefully, happily ever after. But Beatrice died. Like, that's badass. Like, that's so memorable. And just like, I love self-sacrifice. Okay, I love that kind of trope, I guess you could say. Like, it's only happened in a couple of books that I read, and I loved every one of them. Okay, I didn't love this book, like, don't get me wrong, but that ending was so good. With the way it ties all back into her mother and everything was just genius. And in the movie, it doesn't do that at all. It's just such a waste, like a waste of space, a waste of time, a waste of acting even. I mean, Shailene Woodley looked so bored in this movie, you guys. She could not have been bothered less to be here. She looked like that video. If I can find it, I'll put it right here.
You were nominated for Best Kiss. Do you feel like kind of awkward, like every time anyone talks to you tonight, they're just gonna be like staring at your mouth like I'm doing right now?
No,
Are you hungry right now?
not at all.
Really? I'm so hungry.
Well, you should probably eat.
Yeah, she looked, that's exactly how she acted in this whole movie. She was over it. I'm just here for the check, you guys. I'm just here for the check. Sign it, let me leave. Final thoughts of this whole series. Final thoughts, and then I'm gonna shut up about this and literally never think about it again. I'm gonna go get a lobotomy once I'm done. I think that in the beginning, like the first two books, the topic of fear is very prevalent, and I think that that's a great plot device. I love when fear is like the main point of a story, okay? And the Dauntless like are all about overcoming their fears because they're supposed to be brave. I liked Beatrice's character. Like, maybe I'm contradicting myself, but I don't remember reading it and being like appalled by her or annoyed by her. Really, I don't think I couldn't stand her. Like, I feel like she was a fine character, and her motivations were not clear at all, and it made it hard to like enjoy the book because of that. But then once we get to the end of the third one, a lot of it just accumulates. You know, I really hate that we are ending this on the third movie instead of the third book, because the way that I ended that last video was so good. I mean, the way that the book just like collaborated together to like be this story of love and loyalty and like blood before faction, and like who do you trust, and like who would you die for, you know, that's so powerful. And then you actually do die for them, like you put your money where your mouth is, you know. And she did that throughout all the books. And then these movies, man, you know, it's so funny because after the first one, I was like, I feel like the movies are better than the books. After this final movie, I need to eat my words. I'm gonna go eat my hat now, because that was a lie. Any other final thoughts I have? Thank you for watching. Thank you for enduring through this. Trust me, I had it a lot harder than you did. So like, thank you so much for sitting through. And if you're listening to this part right now, like, thank you so much for watching till the end. I love you so much. But I will see you next time. Again, thank you so much for watching this. I love you.